Life purpose in the human design chart. Many people ask about their life purpose when they come to me for a reading or if they come to me to be a client. This is a big topic for people these days, question about life purpose. And we see it all the time now with people who are quitting their jobs. We have this great resignation that's going on where many people are saying, I actually don't want to give away my life to a job that I've kind of been slaving at, that I don't get to see my family, or I don't have any energy for anything else in my life. And they're questioning, so what does really matter to me? What is my purpose? Why am I here? And what's my contribution? This video is the first of a series of videos about life purpose in relation to human design and to the 8 pillars of feminine sovereignty. The 5th pillar of feminine sovereignty is know your purpose and your contribution. I make a distinction between life purpose and contribution, life purpose being more about how you are living your life and your expression and a kind of inner sense of fulfillment and satisfaction that you get from being on purpose. And your contribution, which is what are you putting out into the world? That could be through your work in the world, but it doesn't have to be through the work that you do. It could be through lots of other ways that you can engage with life. So this is a really important part of feminine sovereignty, and human design helps to reveal some critical aspects of life purpose. In today's video, I'm going to share with you my perspective on life purpose, particularly how it relates to human design, but really it has much larger implications from that, really for how you might think or work with life purpose in your whole life. And I'm going to give you an overview of where I see the potential for understanding life purpose in the human design chart. Then I will continue with more videos that are looking at those different aspects of human design in relation to life purpose. As we dive in, I want to share with you some of what I have received through a survey that I recently did with people who have downloaded my Getting Started with Human Design ebook, which you can also get, and I would love to hear from you in that survey about what's true for you. I basically asked, what are the challenges that you have in your life and what are you longing for? And here are some of the responses. Let me read them to you. So some of the challenges are clarity about the next steps, overwhelm and isolation. I think that happened a lot with people with this pandemic. Defining the right work, getting unstuck and moving forward, creating money with my business, healing and integrating my own inner conflicts, breaking through the shadow that I have. Living in alignment with capacity, meaning what is mine to do in relation to purpose and not overstretching, which I think is really important. And then the desires are wanting to know that I'm making a positive difference in the world, stability and wanting to know I'm on the right path, being satisfied and happy about how I'm spending my energy, to know when and how do I serve all and how to be patient in the process, to be doing meaningful work, to experience peace and freedom, and to have an interdependence with others. Everything that was mentioned in this survey gets much easier when you feel on purpose, when you have found a way to feel on purpose. And one key aspect of that is to know what your part is, just what your piece is. I think we get really overwhelmed and have a lot of despair when we look at the big things that are happening in the world. And there are a lot of big things, absolutely. And many of us really want to know that we can do something meaningful and we can make some kind of a difference. But it's a really downward spiral to be looking at the big picture and think that somehow you have to address all of that, because the truth is you can't. I mean, nobody can, right? That's going to make you stressed out and overwhelmed and feel like that nothing is really worth doing if you go at it that way. But if you are able to identify the work that you want to be doing right now, whether that's your work in the world or just your engagement with life, and you can feel on purpose in doing that, it's just your piece. I spent many years working with Shiloh Sophia McLeod, who is one of the founders of the Cosmic Cowgirls, and she's been a creativity mentor of mine for a long time. And she talks a lot about the red thread and how there is a Chinese proverb about how people who are meant to meet in this life are all connected by a red thread. And according to her, the red thread shows up in all major spiritual traditions in the world, which I think is really fascinating. And the point here is you just need to know what your piece of the red thread is. You aren't going to be in charge of all of the red thread that everybody's going to be holding on to. You're just in charge of your piece, knowing that there are other people who have their piece of the red thread and that we are connected through a web, right? A web of consciousness, a web of purpose, a web of caring and of compassion and of vision, right? And that's really what we need. We need to know what our piece of the red thread is, and we need to know that other people are working on their piece of the red thread, and sometimes that we're coming and sharing with each other about what our different pieces of that red thread is. I want to emphasize that your purpose and even your contribution may or may not have anything to do with your work in the world. I think for many people it does, especially if we are stepping out of working for other people and stepping into creating our own enterprises. Then very often we really want to feel like what we're doing is our purpose and our contribution, and that we are bringing the very best of us to express and embody into the work that we're doing. And for other people, that's not their path. So I just want you to know whatever is true for you, it's all good. The most important thing is that you discover and then you develop what is right for you. In human design and in life in general, life purpose is really a diamond. It has many, many facets, and it's not as simple as it might seem. People are not diagrams, they're not models, they're not formulas. People are complex. We are more of a process in motion that is continually growing and developing than we are some kind of a static or fixed entity that we get to discover. There's this phrase that's out there in personal growth these days, which is about becoming who you really are, as if what you really are is some fixed idea that if you could just get to it, you would know who you were. I don't actually ascribe to that at all. I think in human design that Ra, who is the founder and the developer of human design, had more of that attitude. He was much more kind of deterministic in his point of view. And he really thought that if you could get what was happening in your design, you could get who you really were. I see things as much more developmental and evolutionary, and human design provides you with a snapshot of where you were, the energies that were happening right at your birth and 88 days prior. And we put those together and it creates the mandala and it creates the body graph. But it doesn't tell you how you've lived your life. It doesn't tell you what kind of family you grew up in, what kind of community you grew up in, what choices you've made along the way, what challenges you've experienced and how you met those challenges, what wounds you maybe had that you've already healed or wounds that you have that you haven't healed yet. It doesn't tell you any of that stuff, okay? So it is one really vital and important lens, but it does not tell you the whole story by a long shot. My perspective is that life purpose is a growth path. It's an evolutionary journey over which you have quite a bit of command. Now, I use the word command in the context of sovereignty, and it's about being really connected to spirit and having confidence that grows from that place. Whereas control comes much more out of ego and fear and the desire to create some kind of security and stability by controlling often other people or the circumstances around you. Whereas command comes from a deep sense of inner strength that you have, that you really do feel when you are more on purpose. And I want to emphasize that that path or that journey is not set in stone. You have choice about how it's going to go, about where you're going to move, what things you're going to emphasize, what things you're going to reject or ignore or de-emphasize, and how long you're going to stay in something, whether that's work or in a relationship or a place where you live. whatever it might be in a friend group, right? You have a lot of choices that are going to influence your experience of your life purpose. I'm not one of those people who believes that your whole life has already been laid out for you before you got here. And if we could just step back from a place of time, that it would all already be written. I do believe that there are dimensions from which time is simultaneous. But my perspective on it is not that it's all written, rather it's all changing all the time. So what we do now is going to influence the future. What we do now is going to influence the past. What happened in the past is influencing us now, but future and past, it's all influencing each other. I find that to be a much more empowering way to go about this. And so when it comes to your life purpose, yes, there are certain things that your human design will reveal to you to say, you have access to these energies. It doesn't necessarily tell you how you're going to be expressing those energies. We can learn the more awakened and empowered versus the shadow versus the disempowered aspect of all of the different energies in the human design chart. And there's well over 100 of them. And part of our life purpose, I believe, is in the evolutionary path or the soul curriculum, if you will, to be able to express and embody the most awakened and most empowered aspects of the parts of our chart that are defined or colored in. That does not mean that the parts that are white or open are not a part of our life purpose. I know that there are really important parts of my chart that are open, that are definitely key to my life purpose, like my open throat, for example, or the sensing circuit. All of these have played a key role in my life purpose, and yet they're open in my chart. So I don't want you to just immediately get overwhelmed when I say that. And there are ways to approach this kind of systematically. And that's what I'm going to be doing in this series of videos, is to be taking you through how I would approach this if I were just going to be doing it one piece at a time, rather than working with a specialist who is skilled in helping you to put the whole picture together. The parts that are colored in on your chart will determine a lot of different things. It'll tell you about your profile and your type and your strategy and your authority, your circuitry. It really reveals kind of what the whole system is about. Ra really focused on this, and he developed what he called the not self in the different aspects of the chart. And now with quantum human design, we're really looking at, well, what are the empowered and the aspects of the chart? And that's the part that I get really jazzed about. And so I work with both. I know from my own life experience and from decades of working with clients that it really is possible to evolve yourself. It really is possible to change patterns and ways of being that you've had your whole life. I've done it. I've supported clients to do it. I've witnessed friends and colleagues be able to do that too. So I want to really reassure you of that. And it's not the way that Ra thought at all. So if this feels counter to some of the things that you've heard in other teachings of human design, it probably is, because this is a place that I really part ways with Ra, with great respect and honor and appreciation to him for bringing us human design. Human design cannot tell you the whole story because it can't tell you how you've lived your life and your choices and so on, as I was mentioning a little while ago. But it can help you understand your strengths, your attributes, the aspects of yourself that can become superpowers when you know how to embody and express them. You can even learn about aspects of yourself that you thought were character flaws, and you can turn that around into something that becomes a huge ally for you. Or you can discover aspects of yourself that maybe you ignored or rejected at some part in your life. Maybe because nobody in your family or your community valued it. You didn't see it reflected back to you in the culture that you grew up in, and you saw another way to go that was deemed to be the path to success. I see this all the time with people really, really developing their logical, strategic, left brain way of being. Even people who don't have definition in the logic circuit, who really go that direction because that's what our culture teaches is the path to success. But sometimes when we do that, we also cut out other aspects of ourselves, and that's what human design can reveal to us. Let me just give you a couple of examples. I did a reading for a man recently who came to me and let me know about where he was right now. And he said he was kind of at a pivot point in his life. He had gotten to the top of his career. He had been very successful. He had gone at it in a very left brain, logical, strategic way, working with professionals who were also that way. And he felt really good about the success that he had done. And there was an aspect of that that was really in alignment with his purpose in his design, which was about providing for his family. Done a very good job of providing for his family. When I looked at his chart, I also saw that he had a superpower in the gate 64, which is the beginning of the sensing circuit. He had 4 different activations in that one gate, which means it's a huge theme in somebody's life when they have 4 different ways that planets are showing up in that gate. And so I mentioned this to him and I said, you've got this really powerful right-brained energy. Are you aware of that? Has that ever been true for you in your life? And he kind of stopped and thought for a moment and he said, when I was a kid, I was a little bit of a musical prodigy. I mean, I could play different instruments. I played the piano a lot. I was really very good at it. But as I started to come of age, it was something that I just rejected. I turned away from it. It wasn't what was being suggested to me. My peers didn't think it was great. And so I went in this other direction. I became actually really good at sports, which is also partly in the sensing circuit because it's where embodiment is, right? But also then he became, as a professional, much more left-brained. And when I mentioned this to him, he really kind of lit up and was like, oh, that's like a big part of my chart. I said, it is. And it can be a part of your purpose as well. And it's not that you have to just let go all of that left brain stuff, but you want to balance it out so you have a bigger repertoire of what to draw on. And you're not only just working with, that one part of you, that left brain, you can also use that right brain as well. He was pretty excited about that. I did another reading for a woman who also super developed her left brain. She had some left brain energy in her chart, and more important, the decision that she had made when she was a young person was that her number one priority was to be able to create financial stability for herself and her family, because she did not grow up with that. And so she really wanted to know that she could make it on her own and she could provide for her family. And so she happened to be good at left brain stuff. And so she went that way and she developed a career and she became extremely sought after and very successful. But she also got really burned out and realized she wasn't happy. And by the time she came to me, she said, I don't even know what I like. I really don't even know what I like or what I want. And so a lot of our reading was about looking at her chart and me suggesting things that she could start to experiment with and start to explore to see if she could activate some other aspects of herself about what she really liked and what she wanted to get to have more of in her life, and to help to stimulate some desire inside of her, because she had put that so aside that she couldn't even feel it. So in some ways, with both of these examples, their life purpose with the man was to provide for his family, and for her was also to provide for her family, to create financial stability. So they both were really conditioned into this way of being in the world, and they had both become quite successful at that. Now, that's one way to think about life purpose, right? And they had accomplished it. But even so, they began to see that it was kind of a narrow way of thinking about who they could be, what their life could be like, and how they wanted to experience and express themselves. And so that's why they came to human design. And it can be a way to really kind of open up your perspective to be able to really see new possibilities. And that's one of the things I love to help people to get a handle on. It takes time to get to understand your human design chart and to get to know about the parts of you that maybe you haven't been so familiar with. So I just want to invite you to be patient and to explore and to experiment and to try things out and to reflect as you learn things. Sometimes when I come across people, they've just learned human design and it's like they want to eat the whole buffet all in one meal. And I'm like, just slow down, take your time, allow things to settle in, because it does take time, because you do have to decondition, or you have to move outside of what you had taken in as what you needed to do, like these two examples of this man and woman I was just talking about. A word of caution and advice to you. Watch out whenever somebody says to you, you're here to do blah, da, 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 da. Now, you hear that a lot in the human design world. And the reason that I say to watch out is that it's way more complicated than somebody glancing at your chart can tell you what you're here to do. Ultimately, it's yours to discover and to determine what you're here to do. Yes, a certified specialist in human design and quantum human design can give you some clues. And when I look at a chart, I look for the creative tension between all of the different aspects in the chart, which is often the growth edge, and I help to reveal things that maybe they didn't take into account. But even then, I want to say, ultimately, it's up to you. You need to get to know yourself well enough to make that decision for yourself. Human design can point you to parts of yourself that you don't already know about. It can help you to honor and respect and bring more into the fore of your life, things that you may have rejected earlier in your life. Yes, it can do all of that, and it can enrich your life for you. But always, 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 check to see if something resonates for you. Because if it doesn't resonate for you, either it's not really true for you or it's not true for you right now. And never, ever, ever give away your authority and your power to someone else who tells you who you are. Other people are never going to be inside of your skin or inside of your life. You are the expert on your life. And at the same time, be willing to be open, to be influenced, to check out possibilities, to maybe challenge yourself on some of the things that you took for granted. Like when I learned that I was a generator and I had to challenge myself to learn how to respond. I mean, that was a big project for me and it was very disruptive. And I've talked to other people where different aspects are disruptive for them. So you do want to be willing to be influenced and be willing to be changed. After all, if you want human design to help you free yourself and to transform your life, to upgrade your experience, then you have to be willing to change. That's absolutely the case. But I want to just emphasize that you ultimately are the authority on your life. Having said that, I want to point out a few different aspects of the chart that I'll be doing videos about over the coming weeks. So the first one is type and strategy. This is a foundation for human design. It's where everybody starts. And so I will be doing a series of videos on each of the types having to do with life purpose. The reason that type and strategy are so important is that until you really get this laid down in your life, and also your authority, which is how you make decisions. This is really about how you're designed to dance with the flow of life, how you're designed to connect with spirit and to live as a co-creator with the flow of life, which is pillar number 1 of feminine sovereignty. Until you get that piece, then it's very difficult for you to access the other aspects of your chart. And this is where I'm uncomfortable sometimes when people pull out little pieces of a chart and they'll say, oh, well, you have the channel of the alpha, or you have the money line, or you have the channel of the bargain, and that means you're like this. Or if they say you have, the gate of ideas, or you have the gate of struggle, or you have your G center is undefined, and that means you're like this. I have an issue with that because those little details, right, if they're not taken in the context of your whole chart, and particular in relation to your type, strategy, and authority, you can get a pretty distorted view of those things. So you always want to start with type and strategy. The next piece that I look at, and this was hugely transformative for me, is circuitry, is understanding circuitry. There's 3 main circuits. There's the individual circuit, the tribal circuit, and the collective circuit. All of them have different attributes. All of them work somewhat differently. When I learned my circuitry, it was one of the biggest influences for me on my life purpose. And so I'll be sharing more about that with you when I do the videos on circuitry. Incarnation cross is the kind of classic place that you look for life purpose in the chart. It's where your conscious sun and your conscious earth and your unconscious sun and your unconscious earth are. It's the very top of the numbers that are on every human design chart. And yes, they're very important, and there's a good reason why people say that. I also want to say that taken out of context, it's only going to be so helpful. And so I'm going to talk about carnation cross the way that I think about incarnation crosses. There's a lot of great resources that are out there for you. Chetan Parkin has a book on the book, I think it's called The Book of Destinies, that has all of the incarnation crosses based just on the conscious sun, though. It's not based on all 4 of them. But there's other resources you can look at for that. But again, I like to look at it in the context of the whole design, particularly type, strategy, authority, and circuitry. Definition and openness is another one. And I think that, again, I differ from a lot of people about how I think about definition and openness and how that might relate to your life purpose. So I'll be digging into that. And then the last one is profile. Profile definitely has a contributing factor to your life purpose, certainly how you live out your purpose. And so I will be doing a video on that as well. So you can see there's a lot of material here. So this will be keeping me busy for a while. And I hope that this is going to give you some real gems about how you can start to put together those facets of the diamond that you are. And my experience is that each of those components is more important for some people and less important for others. Like I said, none of us is a diagram or model or formula. And how you've lived your life has a huge impact on how you're going to experience your life purpose. Some people got stuff really, really early on in their lives, and others of us, it keeps unfolding and unfolding and unfolding. So it's very, very different. And I just want to really acknowledge you and honor you and encourage you to know that you're in charge of discovering this and developing this, and that there's nothing set in stone for you. If you come across something that somebody says is your life purpose and you're like, no, that's not it, then maybe it's not. There may be some aspect of it that you don't want to hear about or you don't want to know about. So you always want to check that piece out, right? Like for me, when I was like, designed to respond, are you kidding? I had to get over that one, my arrogance was in the way. So you do want to check that out. But at the same time, you are the ultimate expert on your life and your purpose. I'm going to start with looking at the generators and manifesting generators next time. So make sure to check out those videos, whether you are a manifesting generator or a generator, you have people in your life who you love. If you're not, because we're 70% of the population. And in the meantime, I have created several videos about right work for generators and manifesting generators. And there's a lot of material in there that has to do with purpose, because for us generators and manifesting generators, work is a big part of our purpose because we are designed to work. I mean, that's a big part of what we're designed to do. But it doesn't necessarily have to be our whole purpose. And so I will be building out other aspects of life purpose than what I've covered in those videos. But you can check out these videos here in the meantime, and then make sure to come back next and learn out more about life purpose for generators and manifesting generators. Many blessings, much love. Bye for now.